Okay, started a video. We're recording. So today's going to be pretty short, but you definitely need a calculator. So as you take your calculator, it's going to be much easier with one of the school calculators. It can be done on a Chromebook, but at the same time, I'd rather in here, we're using one of the school calculators. Bring up the school calculator. If you're doing it from home, for those people quarantined, as we've had all year, we have the videos. So hopefully you have been keeping up or keeping up with whatever assignments have been posted. In here, one of the things we're going to do, we're going to simplify this. We're going to learn how to use this tomorrow, but we're going to start by looking at this thing and write it in simplified form. Now, the simplified form, we're going to focus on this. We're going to leave this 1 here, then we're going to write a plus or minus. And what we're going to focus on is simplifying what's under the square root. So we're going to take all this stuff that you see under the square root. We're not going to put the square root sign on right now in the calculator. So we're going to take all that and we're going to type in the calculator just to simplify this. And we're going to go parentheses -1 squared. Whoops. Squared. So you see how that's written in there. -4 times 7 times 0. Now, you should be able to do this. You should know your rules back from elementary school, really, is when you should have learned these. That parentheses are the highest order of operation. Then exponents, then multiplication and division are equal, and you do them in order from left to right. Then addition and subtraction are equal, and you do them in order from left to right. That's why a lot of times people say, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. But I'll say it's also, please everybody, don't make silly accusations. And that works the same as well, because parentheses are the highest, exponents are next. Division and multiplication are equal. It just depends which one happens first, and subtraction and addition are also equal. Okay, so there's different sayings you can have. All right, but what's the point of this? Well, we see some exponents. So if we were to do this, -1 squared, if we square that, that would get us +1. Now, this is multiplying 4 times 7 times 0. Well, before we subtract, we would multiply. So 4 times 7 times 0 is 28, and it would stay a -28. And if you do all this, what should happen? This should get you a negative. What did I do wrong? No. 4 times 7 times 0. Sorry, that should be 0. Okay, it should have turned into 0. I took it times 1. So 4 times 7 times 0, anything times 0 is 0, right? -1 minus 0 is still 1. And you're like, why is it 1? Well, that squared was +1. So it turns into a 1 minus 0. Sorry, I made that a lot harder than it had to be. All right. But all that underneath the square root sign turns into a 1. So in terms of the simplified form, all I'm looking for us to do is figure out what's underneath there. And we get 1. And then in the bottom, 2 times 7 is 14. So far, that's what we have. Okay? Now, you know how in a lot of the equations we've been doing, we've been getting 2 answers? This thing's going to get us 2 different answers. What it's going to get us is make a fraction bar, and it's going to get us 1 plus the square root of 1 over 14. Now, what is the square root of 1? 1. So 1 plus 1 is 2. So this gets us 2 over 14. If you reduce 2 over 14, it gets you 1 over 7. Now, if you've typed that one, there's also a second answer. It says it's 1 minus the square root of 1. Now, I don't like typing all that again, so I'm going to press up a couple times, and notice how it's highlighted this? And then I'm going to hit enter. It copies it. Now I'm going to back up a little bit, and I'm going to delete just the plus sign and put in a minus sign. Now, what's 1 minus 1? 0 divided by 14 is 0. So it gets us two answers like we've been doing over and over and over. You know, we've been getting two answers a lot. Now, what we're learning to do is manipulate the formula. Tomorrow or the next day, we'll learn the formulas. Probably tomorrow is when we'll learn the formula. Okay? So this one, what I'd like to do is take this one first, leave this 5 here, make this plus or minus, put the square root sign, and let's figure out what all this business is under here. Negative 5 squared would be 25. Negative 4 times negative 2 would be positive 8. Positive 8 times 1 would be positive 8. All of that, 25 plus 8, should be 33. We're going to find out if I got that right by actually typing it into the calculator. So I'll add a calculator page. I'll go parenthesis, negative 5, move outside of there, make sure I square it. Minus 4 times, was it negative 2? Times 1. Enter, it gets me 33. Now, I think you should be able to try it in your head. That should be one of the goals. Okay? In the bottom, 2 times negative 2 gets you negative 4. Now, I'm okay if you just let the calculator do the work. On this one, we could do a lot in our head because we know the square root of 1. I don't know the square root of 33. The square root of 33 is about 5.7. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this again. I'm going to go control divide. And in the top, I'm going to put 5 plus the square root of 33 over negative 4 and hit enter. Now, what it really did is it took 5 plus 5.7 and then divided by negative 4. And that's what it got. Now, I have to do it again. So I can either retype it or I can press up a couple times and highlight it. And then press enter, it copies it. Now back up, and I want to replace that plus sign with a what? A minus. So I'll just delete and replace it with a minus. And then it gets me a different answer. So I get negative 2.69 and 0.19. Now, I know it's 0.19. A lot of people put the 0 on there. I a lot of times leave the 0 off, but it's 0 plus a little bit, right? And that's fine. If you put the 0, it's fine. If you don't, okay. So now this next one, we would have negative 2 plus or minus. And our goal first is to do all this stuff that's underneath there. And underneath there, I'm going to click here again, add a different calculator page. I just like working with a fresh calculator page. It says it's 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times 5. And all that turns into negative 16. 2 times 1 is 2. Can you take the square root of a negative number? So what do you think this is going to end up being? No solution, but we'll make sure. So we'll go control divide, and we'll go negative 2 plus the square root of negative 16 over 2. It says no real solution. And we understand why, because you can't take the square root of a negative. So this problem is no solution. Now we'll talk about this tomorrow. When the number underneath here, like the 1 in this problem, when it's positive, you'll get 2 solutions. That was positive, we had 2 solutions. This was a positive 33, you got 2 solutions. When it's a negative, you don't get any solutions. Okay? There's one other option. Sometimes this number turns into 0, and we'll talk about that. When it's 0, you get only 1 solution. There's still an answer. Okay? Only when it's negative, you get no solutions. All right, so let's try this one, see what we can do. We get -1 plus or minus. Now 1 squared would be 1. -4 times 1 is -4. -4 times -2 is be positive 8. So I think that whole thing turns into 9. Let's make sure. Make sure we're trying these, not just napping because we had a long weekend. 1 squared minus 4 times 1 times -2 does get us 9 all over 2. Now I'm going to show you can try to simplify these yourself. It could be -1 plus or minus 3 over 2. See, because that square root of 9 is 3. Okay, -1 plus 3 is 2, and 2 divided by 2 is 1. That'll be one of the answers. I'm going to see if I got that right. So I'm going to go -1 plus square root of 9 divided by 2. I got 1. Now, -1 minus 3 would be -4. -4 divided by 2 would be -2. We'll see if we get that right. I'm going to copy. If you press up and you highlight it, if you got your highlighter on here and you hit enter, it copies it. Then you can back up only the plus sign, put in a minus sign, and see if we get it right. We got -2. So one thing I would like you to think about, the more you try in your head, the better you get at math. And then when you see it, then you'll gain confidence. So do that. I mean, it's like anything else. If you're in a sport, you're kicking in soccer and you want to kick it into the goal, you got to practice. Same thing with math. If you practice with numbers in your head, you'll get better. If you always rely on the calculator only, doesn't mean you can't check with the calculator. You won't get better at it. So you got to try that, and you got to say, well, I'm gonna try that myself. With anything, we try to discipline ourselves to do things so that we get better at it. All right. So this one, simplified, is 3 plus or minus square root of something all over 4. 2 times 2 is 4. This part, -3 squared is 9. A negative times a positive is -8 times -5 is plus 40. I think what we get underneath there is 49. Okay, so I'm trying it to see if I can get it, right? So then you try it, and then you see if you got it right. You put the -3 squared minus 4 times 2 times -5. It gets us 49. Now, I like taking it a step further, saying it's 3 plus or minus 7 over 4 to see if I can get it. How did I get the 7? Square root of 49, 7. 3 plus 7 is 10. 10 divided by 4 is 5 over 2. or it can be 2.5. There's a couple ways we can do that. Let's see if we got that right. We go control, divide, 3 plus square root of 49. 4. Enter. 5 over 2. Now, if you take 5 divided by 2, you can also do this where you put a dot on, so it makes it a decimal right away. I thought I put a dot on. Apparently, I didn't. Oh. Then we can copy it. Replace this with a minus sign. Now, 3 minus 7 would be negative 4. Divided by 4 would be negative 1. So, gets us negative 1. It would have been negative 1 whether we put the dot on it or not. Okay? So, let's see if we can try this one. I'm just going to give a moment to try this one. See if you can come up with this one. Did you get 37? Okay, so now we take negative 7 plus or minus square root of 37 over 2. We do the plus part first. We come up, we copy it. With the minus part. We get negative 0.46 and 6.54.